Hey guys, this is a little prequel to a video that I shot a few days ago, and I wasn't sure whether to put it up or not. Because I don't normally watch the videos that I put up in here. I don't like I say, I don't watch them on YouTube, and I don't even watch them before I put them up. I just film them and chuck them up raw. And this one is long; it's 40 something minutes long. And now I'm adding to it, chucking this on the front as a little disclaimer or explainer or something. It's weird. I just watched some other video about narcissistic mothers for INFJs, and it's like, oh no, I've got to put this one up, because although my whole channel is so far is probably about a narcissistic mother, but it's also looking at what else could have created an INFJ, or are they born, and that's the whole thing. This episode was about a narcissistic stepmother straight after a narcissistic mother, and some of the things of that. But what I wanted to say as the disclaimer or the explainer is that I watched the video because it would have been the first time that I've put all of that together in one long sentence. One whole thing. All the bits and pieces of that I've probably said to people or thought about, but not in its entirety like that. And we're only talking about a period of eight or so years tops. And it is like 40 years ago, right? So that's my little disclaimer here. I'm probably a little bit confused. I've never said it, never worked out the timeline of it. And part of the problem when I went to explain it to my missus the day after I was telling her about this video that I made, and I was quite happy with it, in the way that it's like it says a lot of some of the things that happen, and so when I went to explain it to her, I realised that there was some timeline discrepancies. And I thought about that, and I thought, oh, hang on, maybe I should work that out, And I'm not going to make the video again. I don't believe I need to. I'm happy with all those things that are in there. It's just that some of the things might have been explained in the wrong order or something like that. They all happened. I know that. And it's all about how I was feeling at the time, and recollections to the best of my memories from 40 years ago. It is the fact that if you start telling stories, though, you can plant memories in too, and I was fully aware of that at the age of 10, which I think is in one of my other videos back there. So anyway, I'm just going to chuck this on the front of the other video and stick it up. I think it's coming up tomorrow or the next day. And so yeah. And that video I was watching it, but is that Mind Notion or something? I don't know. I don't know if I've looked at any of that channel's videos before, but narcissistic mothers is, like some of the comments in there. It is probably a decent possibility that the reason I didn't have kids, or just didn't work out, but the reason I didn't, or didn't care to, is that I fully knew at the age of less than 20 that I didn't want to continue the cycle. So yeah, cool. I'm gonna pass it on to the other fella here. He's looks different because he's not in work clothes. All right, check. Hey guys, I come up with another one just before as well. I don't know how to frame this. So I had a stepmother. When I came back from being kidnapped with my mother and my brothers and all that sort of stuff, my mother being the kidnapper, me being the kidnappee, along with my brothers. And so had this stepmother, and as I said before, she was 21. And she was a reasonable looking girl and all that sort of thing, you know. She would have been latching on to the popular man around town, that's you know, a hunter and all that sort of thing, and businessman with all his drinking buddies and the big parties, and he a bit of a player. He ended up with, you know, like very much straight up. I don't know if it's because of her, but my dad bought this big mansion of a place. It was him and her, and then me. Oh, we were there for a few years. Mansion though, 27 rooms. And he rebuilt this whole place, got all his mates to help, and had blokes that were working for him, you know, basically up on scaffoldings, burning off all the paint. It was an old, you know, turn of the century house that was huge. It was huge on a riverbank and all that. It was huge. So, you know, this was at a time that he was a bit of a, I don't know what I don't want to say player, but you know what I mean. He was doing well. The business was going well, all that sort of thing. You know, this is all a year after, or so after Mother Bear kidnapped us and all that sort of shit. So I had this stepmother that went out of her way to try and fuck me up, tried to stamp her authority that she was the one and all that sort of thing. It was actually, I just remember another time. In fact, that plays into what I was going to say. So there's a few times that she's tried to fuck me up with my dad. Other stepmothers have done the same sort of thing. And so I'll cover off the first one. You know, and don't get me wrong, I'm not an innocent player in this. I'm sticking up for myself and understanding the games that she's playing, and she's trying to suck up to me dad a bit and all this sort of stuff. And I mean, and it's fine, you know. Like I was just being that shit of a kid. That's fighting back against the. So, you know, I've gone back to my dad and sort of living with the grandparents, but then, you know, we've sort of now gone and lived in this big mansion of a place, and I think soon after that, actually, my other brother come back up to stay with us, you know, in a couple of years after that, or in a year after that, you know. And because when I came back, for some reason, hang on, this is weird. When I come back, the house that we'd built, you know, my parents had built. My mum had done a lot of, you know, design work and stuff like that, and deciding what she wanted, all that sort of stuff. We weren't in that house for very long. Obviously, it might have had some bad memories from my dad. I told you after we got kidnapped, he must have had to go into, you know, I'd found out later she'd left a note on, much later I'd found out that she'd left a note on the swinging doors that go into the kitchen, and to come home late at night, you know, after as a beers with your mates and that, find out there's a note there and all your family's gone. The note would have said that we've left the town, gone somewhere. We're about 1 kilometre away from his parents' house. Because I'd fucked it up for them, for her, for us, by turning up late to our kidnapping on purpose. Yeah. So that would have been hard, but I'm just realising now, we weren't in that house for very long. I know when my mother came back with me, and I refused to go back, you know, and put my foot down and said, no, I'm not going. I remember her walking around I was out in the lounge, and her walking around going out to the kitchen naked and going back to the bedroom, you know, she would have been trying to stitch him up again. And he didn't fall for it, or something. She would have been trying her best. Because it obviously wasn't working out with the other fella down there. He might have taken off to Australia, I think. She might have thought, oh, hang on, I'll see if I can go and start it back up again. See if I can, without saying I'm wrong or apologising or anything like that, I'll see if I can make it his idea. Yeah, cheeky bitch. But I remember that in that house. And I remember the new stepmother being in that house for not long, but it might have been a year tops before we moved to this other place, bought this other place. And it was funny, we're down in the other town, when we'd been kidnapped and hiding out, moving from town to town every few months. Absolutely got no money. Living on next to nothing, but spending all of our money on trying to feed her cigarette and drinking habits. Smirnoff vodka and Sportsman 25. And so my barman skills came in handy there for her. Yeah. 2 fingers and the rest of them Coke. Just not to the top of the tumbler though, just at 3/4. Yeah. Yeah, just 3/4 full. She was a bit fuzzy on that. So she didn't mind my bartending skills. All my other brothers had to be bartenders too once I'd gone. Didn't mind it then, did she? No. But, I don't know, it seemed like we were hiding out, or, I don't know. There was no money and there was no food, and it was all just, anyway. But we're talking about the stepmother now. I just don't know how these little ramblings are going. Is this just a confessional? There's nothing about INFJ Bc at all, is it? It's just a big confessional for me. Without having to go to a therapist, I just talk to myself. Fix myself. That's what INFJs can actually fix themselves. You just got to get the thoughts out there sometimes. So anyway, in that house, the house that we've been kidnapped from wasn't there for very long. I think my dad wanted to just get rid of the memories of that one. That would have been pretty hard to come home to each day. And then big flash house. And this 21-year-old, well, she might have been 22, 23 by then, stepmother, trying to fuck me up wherever she could. It was just make sure there's no relationship between me and my dad. It was, I don't know what it was. I think it's standard though for all shit person, step parents. Wish it wasn't. I wish they were all more grown up and whatever. Wish there was no need for all these step parents. And we're going to talk about the mashed potato incident. And my dad loves mashed potatoes. My dad and I have bonded over mashed potatoes. Oh hell, we're going to talk about mashed potatoes at the end of the story. We're going to have to move on to a different part of the story. Okay, so mashed potatoes. My dad's coming home. Supposed to be home at a certain time, like 8 o'clock or something like that. I do remember that the show Roots was on or something like that, that type of thing, and there would have been, it was around that style, that time, and big open fire. I remember there being a big open fire that we had, fireplace, and shag pile carpet. I remember the carpet. I'm not going to do some terrible acting like Amber Heard now. I just remember the shag pile carpet. And there was this mashed potato that she was making. And she made an effort of making the mashed potato. He liked it, and like it's nothing to mashed potatoes. She did some good cooking too. I remember there was orange chicken. That was the thing in the 80s though. Everyone did that. I like it though. Yeah, there were some good times with her, but let me just talk the shit. Because I've actually got a half brother, with her as well, which that's going to come to the story as well. So that's if he ever saw this, he might be, disappointed. But hey, I knew his mother before he did, and I've known her longer. So there was some smart ass comments, some shit that she was trying to put over on me or get me to be, or I think she wanted to have she was pissed off that I was there because I think she wanted to have a romantic dinner with him, and I was there. She didn't really buy into this, like I popped back, and she had sort of maybe latched onto him while we were away, and interesting how I paint him to not be, a saint. But anyway, she latched on. I'm sure. He obviously would have been quite successful and charismatic and all those sorts of things. Plenty of mates and stuff like that. Powerful person in town, and she would latch on to him. And he wouldn't have minded because she was quite pretty and all that sort of thing. They got on right, and she could do the drinking culture thing and all that thing. She was actually a sister of one of his mates they went hunting with, but. Anyway, the mashed potatoes. So I don't quite know exactly how it went down with what the issue with me and her was that night. There was some argument. And to be a cunt, I'm using that word. I was a cunt. To be a cunt. She's mashing up the potatoes. He's not far from. He's obviously said he's just left or something, and she's just mashing the potatoes. Too late to do another lot of mashed potatoes. I walk into the kitchen with a handful of those little polystyrene balls out of the beanbag, just while she's whipping the potatoes. Did she see red? Fury. Actually, the same faces that Amber Heard's been put. And she decided she was going to fuck me up right then. And once she calmed down and sort of, because I think she was going to start doing some of those things herself, and she thought, oh, hang on, this will backfire on me. I'm going to word him up when he walks in and set him on. So she, chased me out of the place, and I went to my room. And so I could hear that my dad was home, and I could hear that she was wording him up, saying whatever. She obviously didn't say all the things that had happened before to make this happen. For me to be angry enough to do what I did, or to be smart ass enough to go, fuck you. You want to be a player. You want to, yeah. So, my dad called me down, and he asked me straight. He said, did you put polystyrene in the mashed potatoes? Because obviously he couldn't believe it. He thought that she must have been bullshit. And this is actually the only time that he struck me. But it was a backhander. It was nothing, It was a backhanded slap. We were standing in front of the fireplace. She was there. She would have been so proud that, she got him to slap me. Backhanded one. But it was nothing like... It was weaker than Will Smith's. It was just a weak-ass slap. It was just nothing. It was all for show. There was a whack noise, you know. But I've always had a high pain threshold too. Nothing, you know, when I got the cane at school and stuff like that, I never felt it. I can drop hammers on my head while I'm working on cars and stuff like that, and under trucks and stuff like that, and I don't even know that it's happened, and there's blood coming down the side of my head. I don't know. So I have got a high pain threshold, or some sort of dissociation of pain or something. I don't know what it is, but I can mind over matter, all that sort of stuff. And so, you know, my body language would have been, yep, I did it. There was no guilt in there. There was no ashamed or I didn't feel I was wrong. You know, like I was wrong, but there was a reason for it. And I wish I knew what it was. There was something between me and her. I knew that she was playing some game or something like that. There was something. And she knew too. She thought she won that round. She really did think she won. And yeah, I sent her to her room and all that sort of stuff, whatever, you know. She got to have their dinner, maybe without mashed potatoes, though, you know. But so fast forward a few years later, and I'm 15. I've left school, and I've gone to, at Christmas time, at the end of the year, I've gone to my mother's place down in the different town, and you know, have a couple of weeks with my brothers and all that sort of thing. You know, like that was a standard. It might have even been a deal, contractual deal. I don't know. You know, you got to come down there for Christmas this year. Okay, whatever, fine. So I was down there, and the mother's trying to organise, you know, me to get jobs there or something like that. You know, she's trying to inject herself into my life and that sort of thing. She's like, but just before I'd gone for a job interview type of thing, put my forms in or something like that, for an apprenticeship, and it happened to be at the same place that my dad did his apprenticeship as a mechanic as well, you know. And I don't know, he might have pulled some strings, he might have said something to someone, I think he might have. But while I was down visiting me mother and brothers, I got a phone call from me dad. And back in those days, I wrote a diary. Is that an INFJ thing to do? Probably for the year or so before that, I was writing a diary. My grandfather used to write a diary, and he'd have all sorts of things. You know, this happened this day, this happened this day, you know, and this was the temperature, and this was the season, it was raining, whatever. Great for planting things. He did a lot of gardening stuff and planting vegetables and all that sort of stuff, and fruit, whatever. But you know, he sprayed whatever this, and you know, so and so came around that day. You know, so he had everything in his diary, and the diary would have gone back for many years. And I don't know why, but I was writing a diary back then too. And it was very much to the point. There's probably no feelings, and it wasn't like a journal or something like that, maybe. But I'd written that in my diary as actually it was February, so it was a late holidays one, and it was probably because, see, school would have been back in by then, but I wasn't going back to school. So I went down there. I had me job interview, and I was there in February, early February, which happens to be my mother's birthday. So in my diary, I'd written, Mum's birthday, Dad rang, have to go back for job interview, I think. So maybe I'd put my paperwork in, but I hadn't had a job interview, but had to go back for a job interview. Yeah, that's what it was. And so that was what was in that diary entry on that day. Okay. So shift a little bit further along, a year or so, you know. By that stage, I am an apprentice mechanic, and you know, my dad has sold that big flash house, and they bought a farm, or he bought a farm, whatever. He bought a farm, and it didn't have much of it in the way of a house or anything on that. There was a little tiny little hut thing that he'd made bigger and nicer and all that sort of thing, but there was no rooms in it as such. So it was just him and her. Veranda and that. For a while I was living beside it in a caravan, and then they built a shed, or he built a shed, whatever, but a shed was built just down on a level below, and in that part of the shed there was a room built, proper sort of room, and that was my room, right? And it was great life. I was out there, you know, out there shooting rabbits and possums and things like that, because those are pests where I'm from. So you go out there shooting and driving four-wheel drive tractors in the mud and all that sort of thing. And I actually ended up running that farm to a large extent, because my dad was pretty big into drinking, having his mates, and he'd have his mates around and they'd get some jobs done too and all that sort of thing. But as far as the day-to-day stuff, I did a lot of it. And she was there too. And she had my little baby brother while she was there. I think it was there. If not, yeah, no, I think it was, maybe. Anyway, so he was, you know, I got photos of him like as a little baby. I'm in one of those swan dries as a, you know, 16-year-old kid, I think, holding him up. And so he's, you know, he's 6 months old, year old, whatever, I don't know, 18 months tops. He's in a pram still, I don't know. So here's the day that my dad stuck up for me. That ties back to that time that he gave me a backhanded slap for something she said. And he's probably found that whatever I say, I don't lie. I just say, yep, that's what I did. Yep, I did it. Yep, I own up for it. Even the time that, probably about 6 months later, even the time that a cop chased me in his own car. He used to be a cop. He wasn't really a cop. He used to be the head of the detectives. Another head of the detectives. They're out for me. I picked up all my mates from school, had all their 10-speed bikes in the back, had 3 10-speed bikes in the back. I just finished on my car doing the redneck tinted windows on the back windows, on the side windows, with black paint. Nice gloss black paint, looked good. Couldn't see out them, but... and I picked up all these 4 boys, and so, well, 3, there was 4 of us in the car, and 3 10-speed boots. After they finished their 6th form, which is, you know, the year 11, whatever you call it, you know, they're 16 years old, these fellas, and they just finished their exams. I happened to pick them up after work. Their exams were finished, I pick them up. I don't know what we're going to do. But apparently I cut this fella off. Well, I know I didn't really, but he must have been sort of speeding and sort of come up closer than, you know, that he, instead of sort of slowing down a bit and pulling in behind, he's gone for the old road rage thing, pull up beside me, driving down that wrong side of the road, shaking his fist, telling me that I had to pull over. And he was going to probably do something. He looked like he was going to beat us all up. So there's no way I'm stopping. And I can drive pretty good. So I ended up driving all over the country. Brakes failed and all sorts of stuff, and evading this fella. I didn't want him to. I was scared. I was scared. Turned out he was an ex-cop, and he tracked me down the next day, went to me work, and I happened to be out on a test drive, and he went to me dad, and he happened to know who my dad was, and told him a story. And it was funny when my dad said, this fella's been in, and he says, you did this. I said, nah, that's not how it is. And he just knew. He knew because he'd known me by the, you know, like, I'll just say, no, that's not what happened. And he sort of learned to trust me. That time when he slapped me after the mashed potatoes, I think he learnt that because I was confident in what I was saying, and I said, yep, that I did it. He's probably guilty that he didn't ask why. But I think I think he worked it out why. And what's coming to later, it's a bit sad what happened, but when crazy women sort of try to control you and try to push you into the situation and what they want you for themselves and all this was another Amber Heard. He got two of them. And I think he's actually got 3, maybe 4. He's going for a type. But I heard a lot of yelling and screaming. I was down in my room. It was a weekend. I was down in my room in the shed, and there was a lot of yelling and screaming up the house. And my dad came down and said to me, "Do you have a diary?" I said, "Yeah." "What does it say on this day?" I pulled it out. I said, "Here it is. Have a look." And it's just like I said. Mum's birthday. Dad rang. Have to go back for a job interview. So the thing was, this crazy Muppet bird, my stepmother, is also the mother of my half-brother now, who's only sort of, a year old or 18 months old, something like that. She had been starting arguments about she was jealous of me mother for the last year. I don't know what, it's just starting ridiculous arguments. And he was getting a bit over it, because he's had one crazy bird, all the stuff and all the throwing and, This bird wasn't too different, She would have been quite aggressive and throwing shit around and all that sort of stuff and quite mean, and she tried some mean things with me, but he came down and asked me what was said. He didn't say anything more about that. He just went straight up to the house and he threw her out. Not only that, he told her to go and take the young fella with him. We lived out in the country on a farm. Off she went. To be clear, I don't need to say this. He ripped the distributor out of the car. That was, the car that she drove, but it was his car, He was like furious that she'd been doing all this shit. And what the thing was, is that she'd got it in her head that Mum's birthday Dad rang meant to her that he was still in love with her. Why don't adults just grow up, for fuck's sakes? How that was all caused by her sneaking in, reading my diaries, misconstruing them, stuffing them all up in her own head. And now her and the young fella are out on their ass and he doesn't want to have nothing to do with them. I think a couple of times, because where my room was, I could see up to the house and there was no curtains. And at night time, I think she might have even moved into the other old house that we had or something like that, or down the bottom or something like that. And she'd sneak up at night time and try and give him the old, trying to get back into his good graces in the bedroom, or something like that. She'd sneak up when I couldn't see. But INFJ see everything. Stupid Muppet. Anyway, it didn't work. She left town. She found another man to latch onto, and then another man, and then that brother of mine, half brother, he came to stay with me dad when he was about, I want to say 17, because he'd got in with the gangs in New Zealand, and he was being groomed to be a gang member. He was going to be in the Black Power, and she was begging for him to come over and stay because she didn't know how to. She'd fucked him up. Everything she'd done, she'd fucked him up. And so he was on cold turkey for a long time, getting over all this sort of shit. And he had no idea what work ethic was or any good things. He didn't have a clue. Any good character traits, he didn't have a clue what they were. And she'd fucked him up. So I actually happened to be working with me dad at that time. I was 30. I'd worked with him for about a year on his charter boat business and stuff, and that's when he came over, when my brother came over. Somewhere around that time anyway, and it's funny, one of the other half-brothers from another bloke, that was half-brother of my half-brother, he came over for a while too, and he was quite good, but he's living with his mother now on crack. She keeps him in the house. She makes his lunch and all that. She sends him to work and all that sort of thing. He spends all his money on crack, and she knows, but she doesn't want to fix him because then he'll leave her. How many people are there out there like Amber Heard? If it wasn't for me dad taking my other younger brother in again, he would have been dead by now or whatever. But I don't think he really appreciates how much it changed his life. Maybe he does. But that stepmother, his mother, my stepmother, was a bad. Are they all bad? I don't know. So what did I learn from that? If the people that you're around are all screwed up, you're going to be screwed up. But how come I got to be an INFJ? Is it because of my grandparents as good role models? One thing I'll say about the mother-in-law thing, and I think this is the whole point of the thing. The day that he kicked them out, as harsh as that sounds, it's like he said, "Yeah, mate, I believe you now. All right." And although there's been a couple of other times where other stepmothers have tried the same trick, try and put a wedge in between me and him, he stood up for me. And I always appreciate him standing up for me, because he did that before I was born. I've sort of found this out now that it was a bit of a shotgun wedding. He didn't really need to, It's because he came from a good family, and that my mother would have shamed him that, if he didn't do the right thing. So he did the right thing. But he had plans of going to America. He had all these things all teed up. He was going to go to America and do something with motorbikes and stuff, and it sounded really cool. He told me the story one time in a bar in Japan. And it's funny that the bird that we were with, he was sort of seeing at the time. There was two people, marathon runners, that were best friends in Japan, and he was on with both of them. They both were trying to get him for themselves. What's he got? Or how? What is it that people want something and they just sell themselves? But anyway, I was in a bar and we were talking, and this bird was there, not the one that he ended up with marrying as his third wife. And that doesn't count the other stepmother, who was sort of a de facto second wife. So that's 4 he's got, that I know of. And he said something, I would have been 21, then. And this is going to tie into being an INFJ stuff, being, I was 21, and he told the story about how he was supposed to, if it wasn't for Mother Bear and the shotgun wedding, the father said, mate, you got to do the right thing, boy. You've made your bed, you got to lie in it now. I don't think they liked her too much, but they didn't say anything negative about her. The older auntie and, well, all, the two girls and my dad's family made a point of not liking my mother. But it was the first time that he sort of said that there was a shotgun wedding and he did the right thing by me. And it didn't go to America and take off instead. And it was sort of funny, how do you tell that to your 21-year-old son, right? In a bar in Japan with, some other bird that you're on with, but you're also on with her best friend. But they would shamelessly do it. They were shamelessly chasing him and whoever else they could get. Just as an INFJ, that sort of thing grates me. But I think this point he appreciated, because I said, "Oh, thanks, bro. You did that for me," and there's so many ways you could have taken all of that. So, oh, thanks, bro. You did that. So I made a sort of a joke about it, and sort of gave him a sort of a side hug, sort of, we're in company, So it wasn't, it was cute. It was funny, and he said, "See, everyone says that this fella here is like too sensitive and stuff like that, but see, he's not, And it was like, oh. So people have been saying that about me, have they? Too sensitive, takes things too sensitively. Like, no, mate, I just see everything, and I've got a sense of the right and wrong. So, stepmothers. She didn't win. But who's their winners and stuff, She didn't play the game of life very well. Everyone else's fault, blah, blah, blah. Wanted to get what she could from anyone else and not put in the work herself. Had no work ethic. Like I say, that she's taught that to my younger brother. So anyway, I think this is far too long already. And the mashed potato, I'm going to carry the story on. After she was gone. So I know I was 13 years old then. After she was gone, it was just me and him on the farm. Me and him ran that farm, no her. So he would, do his work, run his business during the day, going a little bit late maybe, as late as school would allow. So basically I'd get up in the morning and I'd go and feed all the deer and the cows and the goats and what have you, if any of that needed to be done at certain times of year. And then we would go to work, but I would go to school first, and I would drive at 13. You're allowed to. No, you're not. You're not. But I'd drive, and I would get out of the ute at school. He would drive to work, and I would somehow get to maybe I had a bike in the back of the ute. I don't know what it was. But I would get to, after school, I would get to my grandparents' place or to his work. So I'd either do my homework or whatever stuff you're supposed to do, homework, or I'd go to his work and I'd hang around there with the fellas and make projects and go-karts and bikes and whatever, cars, whatever. And then I would probably generally either go to my grandparents' place, and he'd pick me up on the way home from there if he was going to be out having drinks with a few mates or something like that. But quite often we got in the habit of, after work from his business, might have a few beers with the boys and something like that, I would drive. This was great for him because he couldn't get pulled up for drunk driving. I didn't have a license, but I was only 13, but yeah, it was pretty good. It was pretty grown up for 13 years old. And we would call in to the pub on the way home, which was, if I remember rightly, something like 13 kilometres out of town. And then we had another, 8 or 10 to get home to the farm. And so I would wait out in the car, listen to the radio, whatever, nothing. Just watch the drunks coming in and out of the side door of the pub. And it could be quite late, it could be 10:30, 11, 10, it might be 9, but, there was times it was 10:30 and 11. And we would then drive home. And I never complained. Never bitched and moaned and yelled and screamed at him or anything like that, and threw shit at him or started arguments. No. He thought this was awesome. You got a driver and like a little puppy dog. It doesn't complain. Who wouldn't like that? And he was the oldest boy and your mum and dad's favourite grandson. Why wouldn't you? Anyway, we'd go home. And the little tiny farmhouse that we had, and he put on Willie Nelson, Stardust, cranked that up, and he taught me how to make mashed potatoes. So that's full circle. So we would make mashed potatoes and something, but it was always mashed potatoes. So mashed potatoes is me and my dad now. That's mashed potatoes. I'm an expert at making mashed potatoes. And we'd listen to Willie Nelson, Stardust. And I'd go to bed. He'd probably stay up and have a couple of drinks. Wonder how the fuck his life got so fucked up. Fucking woman. Maybe he allowed it, or, it went for a certain type, and he wouldn't have been not to blame at all, but, anyway. Mashed potatoes. Mashed potatoes. That's comfort food for me, and Willie Nelson, and full circle. My dad did the right thing and chose me over Crazy Woman. And Crazy Woman is what caused me to be. Okay, I'm out of this. This is just going on and on. Is this like some confessional? Is it? Am I just getting a free confessional out of this? Just chucking it on YouTube and pretending that 2 people are watching? I don't know. This makes no sense to me. What am I doing?